Hey everyone, DisturbedShadow here, finally back to bring you a new album review. So, obviously it's been a while since I made a video, but I had a lot of crap come up in my life that I had to deal with, but now I can finally get back to making videos. So now I'm going to bring you another album review from an album that came out 10 years ago. Now, I was planning to do this series on the actual release dates, but I kind of got behind on that. So this album came out June 29th, 2004, which the 10th anniversary was 2 months ago now, but let's talk about the second album from post-hardcore band Atreyu, entitled The Curse. Now this is one of my favorite Atreyu albums, and it is the favorite of many, many Atreyu fans, and for good reason. This is a very good album. So let's just jump right in and talk about what makes this so good. Now there's a lot of standout tracks on this album that I want to talk about, so I'm just going to run through the track list and talk about almost all of them because I really like all these tracks for one reason or another. So first let's talk about the intro track entitled Blood Children, and then in parentheses an introduction. There's a brief 1-minute instrumental which is just sort of like a heartbeat sound, and then some guitar noise and some vocals in the background. It's kind of cool, eerie intro before it jumps right into the first actual full track entitled Bleeding Mascara, which is very fast, in-your-face, heavy track. Just very fast-paced drumming and guitar riffs, and then Alex just comes in screaming really hard. It's just a really aggressive song. And then it, again, as Atreyu tends to do, it pulls back to a more melodic thing with Brandon on the vocals in the chorus, which is really cool. And the way this song jumps back and forth between the aggressive and the more melodic side is very good, and this is one of my favorite Atreyu songs. The next song I want to talk about is the third track, Right Side of the Bed, which is the song that got me into Atreyu in the first place. This is just a really good song. It's a little more pulled back, the drums are a little bit simplistic, and the guitar riffs aren't as fast, but I really like the way the song comes together. A very sort of angry-sounding verse, and then it pulls back into the more melodic chorus with Brandon on vocals again, doing his singing thing, and then the more melodic guitar playing from Dan and Travis, which pulls the song together in a really good way, and the way they alternate between the clean and the harsh vocals on the song is very good. And like I said before, it's one of my favorite Atreyu songs. It's just so catchy. Next song I want to talk about is track number 4, This Flesh is a Tomb. This is one of the many songs in this album that sort of talk about vampires, because, I don't know, they really like vampires for some reason. But I really like the way this song works. Throughout the entire song, both in the verses and in the choruses, they do their signature two-vocalist style, and Alex and Brandon trade off very well on this song, alternating between Alex's screams and Brandon's singing, and the way they blend it together works really well. And plus, there's some cool stuff on the song that Marc is doing on the bass, where he sort of deviates from the guitars a lot in the song, and then there's some cool effects on the bass later on in the song, which I really like. Next song I want to talk about is track number 6, entitled The Crimson, which is another song about vampires. But this song just comes together very well. It has a clean guitar-sounding intro before bringing in the distorted guitars, and it just comes in heavy with the singing. And then again, it pulls back into a more simplistic melodic chorus, which Trey does, but I really like the way the chorus is on the song. It's just very catchy, but in a good way. The next song I want to talk about is track number 7, the Remembrance Ballad, which is the very slow, more melodic song. And it's a very moving song, and it has a lot of emotion behind it, and I really like that. And I like that it's like the ballad of the song, even though it is full of screams, but it could still count as a ballad. I mean, it even has ballad in the name, so. The next song I want to talk about is track number 10, Demonology and Heartache, which is another favorite track from this album. It has a really cool harmonized lead part on the guitars, and then it's just got an amazing chorus which pulls you in, and I really like that in this song. So, this is one of the best songs on the album, as I said before. The next song I want to talk about is track number 12, Nevada's Grace, which is another really amazing song. It starts off with the chorus, actually, and it does it first with Brandon singing, and then again with Alex screaming it. And I just really like the way it works. And then it pulls back into a verse, and then it goes back to the chorus, and then it does a different kind of verse. So it's sort of a bit progressive-y in that way, that it doesn't repeat the same thing. And then it goes into a completely different direction for the end, and then the ending guitar riff just pulls at my heartstrings every time. It's just so, something about it just is so powerful, and I really love this song. It's probably my second favorite track on the album after Right Side of the Bed. The last track I want to talk about is the final track, the 13th track, 5 Vicodin Chase with a Shot of Clarity, which is a very interesting song. It's one of the longer songs on the album. It's the longest song on the album, actually. And I really like the way this song comes together. It has another great dynamic between Brandon and Travis on the vocals, and then they do this thing with at the end where they do some gang vocals, which is a little bit different from what they've been doing on the other track. So there's a nice bit of variance in there. So those are my favorite tracks. So let's go in and talk about the actual sound of these guys and what they're doing on their instruments. So first, let's talk about Dan and Travis on the lead and rhythm guitars. The guitar sound is kind of different than anything I've heard on other releases from Atreyu and from other bands in general. I don't really know how to describe it. It's sort of crunchy, but not really. It's crunchy, but smooth. I don't really know how to describe it. And then the leads are a little bit muted, kind of. I don't really know if that's the right word to use, but I think they could have been a little more louder. But the playing itself is really good. And they have lots of cool riffs in a lot of different songs. And they have good melodies, like on Demonology and Heartache. I mentioned there's that cool harmonized part. And then there's a few solos here and there. There's only a few on the album, like on Bleeding Mascara, Right Side of the Bed, and a couple other tracks where they do a little bit of solo work. The solos are nothing too fancy, but they're simplistic and melodic, and they're catchy, and they're memorable. So they're good in that respect, but they're not really flashy, per se. But still, they add a nice dynamic to the songs that they are included in. Now we'll talk about Marc on the bass. I love how turned up the bass is on this album. Part of it is that the guitars aren't as loud as on other releases from them, but the bass is just turned up nice and loud, and you can hear Marc doing sort of interesting things. Sometimes he's going along with the guitars, other times, like on This Flesh is a Tomb or Nevada's Grace. Actually, Nevada's Grace is the part where the bass sort of takes the lead and is the loudest part of the mix, and I really like that. So he does some interesting stuff that is different from the guitars frequently, which I always like to hear. We'll talk about Brandon on drums. He does a good variety of different things with drums. So there's more aggressive songs like Bleeding Mascara, where he goes in really heavy and does all this crazy stuff and interesting fills and stuff. And then he'll go to a song like Right Side of the Bed, where he's more pulled back and simplistic, and it fits the song very well. And then in like a song like the Remembrance Ballad, he does more slowed down, sort of simplistic drumming there as well. And then you'll get a song like Nevada's Grace, where it's sort of slowed down, but the drumming is very fast and keeps the tempo of the song going, and I really like the stuff he's doing there. Now let's talk about Alex and Brandon on vocals. So anyone who listens to Atreyu knows that, especially on the early stuff, Alex does all the screaming and stuff, and then Brandon does melodic singing in the chorus and sometimes in verses. I mean, they've mixed that up since, but on this album, that's what they did. So Alex's harsh vocals are fantastic. They're brutal and heavy, and they sound very unique compared to anyone else, and I really like what he's doing. And then in some places, like on Right Side of the Bed, he'll do like some actual singing for a little bit, and then like throughout all these songs, there's parts where he'll do some weird whispery stuff, and it sounds cool. But then, of course, the main focus is on his actual screaming, which, again, is really good. And then Brandon is doing this melodic singing, and mostly in the choruses, but in some places, like on songs like This Flesh is a Tomb, he'll do stuff in the verses as well. And I really love his clean singing. It's just so melodic. And he does a lot of amazing choruses on this album in particular. And then, of course, there's the dynamic between the two of them, where they're switching off between the two of them, and they have the cool parts where they're like layering the screams on top of the singing, and the way their vocals work together is amazing. And a lot of the times I'm not really a big fan of the two vocalist attack, but they make it work, and they make it work very, very, very well. So that's it for the review, and I've decided that I'm not really going to give number reviews anymore because I find it hard to assign a quantitative number to something as qualitative as music. So let's just leave it at that. This is an amazing album, and you should definitely check it out. It's one of Atreyu's best. So that's it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video because I'm going to start trying to get caught up on these. So see you guys later.